entirely my pleasure, and wish you and all the viewers a very happy new year. I hope that we all stay safe and have a healthy and fruitful year ahead. We are here to talk today about the farm bills or rather the farm laws, and we have spoken about it a lot of times. We have gone through the particular issue in detail, so a lot of you could actually, for those that are interested, can check out the previous podcast with Bharat Varta on this specific issue. But what I really want to talk about today is not so much so as what are there in the reforms, because by now we all know that reforms are indeed a 91 moment, and that they grant economic freedom to our farmers. They give them the choice that whether they want to sell at a mandi or at a private market, and so and so forth. So we do know that it is going to benefit the farmers, and contract farming will really help them ensure price assurances. It will formalize agreements, benefit the small and marginal farmers, allow for them to pool their land, and set up large land pools, which can then be used for mechanization on these large tracts of land. So the underlying point is that we do know that the farm laws benefit the farmers, and we do know that political parties across the board have wanted these laws at some point or the other. A good example is the fact that we saw a recent report as recent as earlier this year by the Punjab government, which was endorsed by the Chief Minister of Punjab, that wanted to do the exact same thing. Uh, so, what I really want to understand, or rather, what I really want to talk about during these 5 minutes or so, is that why is it that despite these reforms being good for farmers, that we have the national capital subject to a protest, which is believed by many to be a farmers' protest. And the reason why I want to talk about this particular issue is because it is very convenient for many of us, including myself as well, and of course the mainstream media, that we take a look at an issue and create it a national issue, saying that this is a national or a pan India farmers protest. And I take strong objection to the idea that this is a pan India farmers protest, because this is a protest only by farmers of three select states. Farmer issues are not homogeneous across the country. What a farmer of West Bengal wants is very different from what a farmer in Punjab may want. So their issues are fundamentally different. So why are these farmers protesting? Well, they're protesting for greater subsidies. They're protesting for lower cost of diesel. And you know what? This lower cost and these subsidies will come at the expense of you. It will come at the expense of me. We are the taxpayers who pay a majority of or rather lift a majority of burden of the government expenditure on these programs. So that's one thing that I want to leave with those who are watching this and who think that the protests are justified or that MSP should be offered. They need to probably think about where will the money come from. Now, what will be the impact of these reforms? Since we all say that these are good for farmers, etc., but what is the intended outcome from these reforms? And the outcome from these reforms is quite simply greater formalization of the agrarian economy. At present, what happens in agriculture is that we have a large farmer who has a disproportionate control over the supply of seeds, because he tends to be the distributor of seeds. He tends to be the person who lends credit to the small and marginal farmers. He also tends to be the person who employs the small farmer as agricultural labor on his large tracts of land. And when we have such an informal setup, it's very easy for these large farmers to actually exploit the small and marginal farmers through their great control over the marketing system. And they exercise this great control by saying that, suppose you're a farmer, you're a small farmer, and you go to sell your produce in a mandi. This large farmer will say that, okay, I'm going to procure it, but I'm going to pay you only for 40% of it, because the rest 60% is not really subject to the fair price, fair quality. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pay you for this much amount, and I'm going to procure the entire quantity of your produce. So this is exactly how these large farmers are able to extract non-productive surplus from the small farmers, which widens rural inequality. So the new laws will create this new mechanism through which we will have capitalist production relations in agriculture, where farmer can sell it either at a private market or a mandi. If he feels exploited, then he's gonna move to a private mandi, get better price realization, will break out of this debt trap that a lot of our farmers are subject to. And more importantly, we'll see the reversal of the widening inequality in the rural sector. And I think that's something that is definitely worth looking forward to. So in a nutshell, what we will see is an expansion of the middle class of the country, and this expansion will come from farmers moving, the non-productive farmers moving away from agriculture to sort of manufacturing and service oriented jobs. And what that does is that it increases productivity levels in the entire economy as people move away from low productive agriculture to high productive manufacturing employment opportunities. And that's the underlying result that we really want to achieve. Now, will it happen in a year? Will it happen in 2 years? Well, not really. These are things that take 5-10 years to pan out. But the fact is that these new laws enable for it to happen, and I think that's the biggest takeaway that we need to take from this conversation. And as far as the opposition to these reforms are concerned, I do believe that it is best to start calling out their bluff for what it is, and it is a politically motivated protest. And I think we should stop referring to it as a farmers protest. It is not a farmers protest because farmer unions actually support these new reforms. And I think the moment we recognize this, we can look at the issue in a much more objective manner. Now, if there are any questions, I would be happy to address those specific
Yeah.
questions if there are any.
Yeah, so more than a couple of questions. I think we have time to take a couple. Uh, so there are many agri-tech startups in India. Shouldn't we be investing more in agri-tech and supporting these existing startups, Karan?
Absolutely. But the question is that, is it the job of the government to invest in these startups, or is it the job of the government to actually create an enabling framework for it? Why do we want government to be in business? Government runs only railways and post offices, and we both know how they are managed, and that both of them are largely in losses most of the times. So I absolutely agree that there's greater investment required, and the new laws will incentivize private sector to come in and make these investments.
Okay, we have another one from Abhishek Muglikar. He says a large farmer is being painted as an exploiter. What makes one think that a private company won't be doing the same?
Well, for okay, so the point over here is that large farmers have historically been exploiters because they've had a disproportionate role that they've played in the economy. But the moment you expand the market, in the sense that in a market there are number of buyers and number of sellers, and there's a concept of market power. When there are more number of sellers for a commodity and the given number of buyers remain the same, market power shifts away from the buyers towards the sellers. In this case, it shifts towards the farmers. So the very fact that we are trying to have more number of participants in the markets ensures that farmers will have a better bargaining and market power, which will prevent their exploitation. And this is something that is consistent with whatever evidence we have across the world.
Okay, one final question, maybe quick comments since we're running out of time. Vineet Madan has asked, Karan, are you advocating for one, ending all subsidies, or two, changing the method of support like giving income support as often argued by Dr. Ashok Gulati?
Well, I am more inclined towards giving direct support in the form of income transfers because that is more efficient. I believe that farmers should be given subsidies because agriculture is subsidized across the world. But I am objecting to the idea that a large farmer should get the same level of support that a small farmer gets. We need to really relook at the way we extend subsidies to the agricultural sector. But that's an issue which can be left for a later period. What is really important is that we go through with these reforms and allow a couple of years to experience the transformation that this is going to unleash in the agrarian economy.